Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So this is going to be a bit of a different video, and we're going to be talking about the topic of Animate Guardians. Now, as you can see here, I've got my my Phantasm Necromancer, which I'm still yet to put the build guide together for this, just with delays and things like that in life. But I did decide I'd put together an Animate Guardian video to basically go, hey, this is how you build your Animate Guardian. So essentially, the Animate Guardian, which is this dude here, is not a minion that you will equip for flat out doing DPS solo, as in the minion's not going to do damage. The goal of the Animate Guardian is actually to be a bit of a aura bot for your own character, hosted by your own character, essentially. And how you're going to equip this is going to, number one, depend on your budget, and number two, depend on what buffs that you want. But I'm going to, in this sort of really quick summary guide of Animate Guardians, I'm going to give you a cheap option and an expensive option in which you can equip your Animate Guardian nice and easily. So just a couple things. The Animate Guardian, now from putting together this build and actually using Animate Guardians this league, you'll notice that, you know, it'll be a gem equipable, and now normally when you move your gear in and out, it'll, you know, I won't take my boots out, but, you know, it'll you know, de-summon your minion. In this case, this will de-summon my Animate Guardian. Now, you might think, now, the way the Animate Guardians work, and I'll talk about that briefly, is essentially you're going to equip the gear, you'll drop that gear, and I'll show you where I usually do that, and then you'll equip it onto the Guardian. Now, if the Guardian dies, you lose the gear. That's how it works. So be very sure when you've equipped your Guardian that it's a level 20 or 21 gem, and also that your minions are going to have enough base health, because the last thing you want to do is fight Cyrus and do what I did and basically brick like 2 or 3x down the drain on my Animate Guardian. So yeah, when you do take the gem out though and you seat it back in, you can, as long as the Animate Guardian hasn't died, you can resummon the Animate Guardian. As you can see, he's getting up here, he's got his Soul Taker, Kingmaker axe and whatnot. Now, the other thing that I should mention is normally when I spawn gear for my Animate Guardian, so say I'll show you an example, but I won't actually recast my Animate Guardian because I'll lose my Animate Guardian's gear. But I would normally just go to Act 1, Lion Eyes Watch. You'll go just outside the gate to the coast. And when it loads, and then basically I'll just drop the gear here, and then I'll cast my Animate Guardian to equip that piece of armor or gearing to the Animate Guardian. It's pretty straightforward, but that's basically how I summon my Animate Guardian as I go. Now the next part of the video, I'll start with going through the cheap option, and then I'll move into the more expensive equipping that you can do with the Animate Guardian, and I'll try and get current market costs as well involved in that. But anyway, well, you'll see the next part of the video. Okay, so this is going to be the cheap iteration of the Animate Guardian. So the first item that you're going to get is going to be the Dying Breath Staff, mainly because this is going to give you increased effective curses on enemies, for nearby enemies, and nearby allies gain a flat 18% increased amount of damage, and as well as 18% increased effective non-curse auras from your skills. Now I'll put the current pricing of this item up in the in the description, but this will be a couple of chaos at most, and usually it's pretty cheap all throughout League. The next item that you'll go for the Animate Guardian is going to be a Leer Cast. Again, this will be, you know, 1 or 2 chaos throughout the league, and basically that's going to give you a flat increase of 15% damage for you and nearby allies based on that, the Animate Guardian and nearby allies. So the damage reduction that you'll see there doesn't actually impact on any of the minions, just on the Guardian itself, and we're not building the Guardian to do damage. Okay, so the third item that you're going to go for will be Victarios Flight, mainly because this is going to give you and your allies 10% movement speed, which may not seem huge, but is actually quite significant and is a fantastic buff to have to give you that edge in the early part of when you're speccing up your Animate Guardian. Okay, and the fourth item that you're going to go for will be the Southbound Soldier Gloves. Now, This will basically mean, and what you'll need on this will be the implicit corruption for Temporal Chains on hit. If you can get it and you do elemental damage on hit. Basically, you want to use this for your Animate Guardian to apply a hex or a curse on enemies. That's going to impact on the enemies, and it's also going to mean that you don't have to directly run a curse on your minion build or whatnot in order to proc that curse. So basically your Animate Guardian is going to run around, tag enemies, and then basically you're going to do additional damage to them, and you can thank your Animate Guardian for that. Now that might set you back somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 40 chaos tops. Alright, so once you've geared everything else, the last item, which I thank for some guys in the Path of Exile Discord, the last item you're going to actually equip for the chest piece is going to be the Garb of the Ephemeral, I think it's pronounced. Basically, this is going to mean that nearby allies' action speed cannot be modified below base, so your allies can't be slowed, in this case your minions, and nearby enemies cannot deal critical strikes. Which means as long as your Animate Guardian's near you, any enemies that come within the vicinity of your Animate Guardian are going to be incapable of critical striking you. Now I picked mine up for about 25 chaos, give or take 30 chaos. It's usually more expensive starter league to get your hands on and becomes cheaper. It's not so much an item that you would use unless you're an Aurabot or you're running an Animate Guardian, so it doesn't have a huge price tag on it. But is a exceptionally good piece of armor to control damage, especially with the Solrus build that I'm running this on at the moment. Okay, so we've covered off on the cheap iteration. So there are a couple of changes that we can make to make this better. So yeah, that'll be the next two items. But in particular, there's only two items that we need to change, and we'll go into that now. Okay, so the first switch out is we're going to remove the Dying Breath, as we previously mentioned, and we're going to get a Kingmaker. Now these can be, anywhere up to 1x depending on the point of the league that you're playing in. The biggest advantage of running this is, number one, nearby allies have 30% increased rarity, which means you're going to have increased rarity. Nearby allies have Culling Strike, which means your minions are going to then cull enemies when they get to 10% health. Remaining, they'll instantly die. The other advantages are nearby allies will have 50% increased crit multi, and nearby allies have Fortify. So if you're running skeletons or specters or anything like that, and you'll see my minions as they fall outside the range in the video behind, the Fortify wears off. But essentially what this means is you don't really need to run Fortify on any of your sockets, and you can put a more meaningful gem in. And your Animate Guardian or AG will basically give your allies a Fortify buff, which will make a technical 7 link, in particular if you're running physical damage minions or something of that nature. But yeah, essentially a really good item. It is a little bit more expensive, but it's definitely worth the investment if you've got an AG that's going to last the lengths and survive some big hits. Okay, so the last switch out is going to be for the Leer Cast, for the more expensive iteration, and you're going to get a Crown of the Tyrant. Now this will set you back about 1x flat at the moment in the league, but basically what this means is with this equipped on your Animate Guardian, any nearby enemies are straight away going to have a 10%, negative 10% to all resistances debuff, and depending on the socket that you roll, that will depend on the damage type that your minions will get buffed. So for example, and to note, this only has one socket, so you can either have one green socket or one blue, one red. If you take a red socket, that's going to do fire damage per on hit. If you take a green socket, cold damage, and obviously blue lightning, and white socket's going to be chaos damage. So that's basically going to mean that any of your allies that are in the vicinity are going to do an automatic increase to damage, including yourself if you do the damage yourself. So potentially you could use an Animate Guardian as long as you've got sufficient minion life and survivability on it to self-buff your own character and give you a huge damage buff out of that. But that would be the only other large investment I would make to get a better end result build on your Animate Guardian. Yeah. Okay, so I hope this video sort of gets you on par with where you need to be in understanding Animate Guardians and how awesome they can be. In particular, if you're a newer player and you haven't really played with Animate Guardians in the past, this is definitely gonna, I hope, help you with that. So anyway, if this video helped, drop me a like, drop me a sub. Just ignore the sale in the thingamabob. Just log back in. And yeah, until next time, I should probably say, if you've got any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Can you get a better chest piece than the Ephemeral chest piece? Of course, you can craft one and make it an absolutely insane chest piece with chaos resist and whatnot. But it's like asking the question, how high is the sky? You can invest and make it the most OP Animate Guardian. The only other thing I would say is if you can get an alternative Animate Guardian gem, there is one that gives an increase to Animate Guardian life. It's incredibly expensive, and whether or not it's worth the investment is entirely up to you. Depends on if you want to risk your Animate Guardian or not. But if it's got a life pool of 50 to 100,000, you know it's doing well anyway. Anyway, until next time, bye.